But then the Romans were like, Carthage must be destroyed. And they did a pretty good job of it, actually. If you go to Tunisia now, it's a lot of Roman stuff.
Well, one people destroy another. That's the way it goes.
It is.
Rinse and repeat.
Jeffrey Wright, it is such a pleasure to chat to you, have a coffee with you.
Yeah.
At my church cinema, we're at Curzon, Soho. I guess for you, you must go to cinemas quite a few times. You've been to a few cinemas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Not as much as you'd think. Yeah.
When was the last time you went to a cinema and it wasn't about work or promoting? You just went, I'm gonna go see a movie.
Oh, my son and I went to see Oppenheimer.
Did you Barbenheim?
No, I haven't seen Barbie yet. My son and my daughter tell me to, dude, you don't know anything about pop culture. You need to, because I'm on movie sets or TV show sets a lot, I think, in some ways. Well, I went through a phase anywhere where I enjoyed making them more than I enjoyed watching them.
Right.
I really enjoy making them, and I do enjoy watching them, but I wouldn't consider myself a film geek necessarily. Although I go in phases, where I swing back and then I get back into the groove, but yeah.
Oppenheimer is a type of film that, I don't know, I feel like sometimes where you see a film, size screen, who you're with, what was that kind of experience of that film?
Well, I was with my son. We were somewhere in the Los Angeles area. And it's just such a massive canvas that, Chris Nolan was working on. And I am a bit of a history nerd. So I was really excited to kind of delve back into the beginnings of this, the modern age really, and this kind of precarious age. So it was a wonderful journey, and Killian was wonderful, and Emily Blunt was, oh man, she was so just full of all the stuff, and everyone. It's an epic piece.
I think it's like David Lynch who says, I think he doesn't like doing interviews and stuff because he's like, the film is the talking.
Yes.
Right. I just think, in conversation with American fiction, what I really love about the film is what is your idea of success? What does success mean? And successfully being yourself, authentically yourself in different ways. The idea of Monk is writing these books that are authentic to him, but they're not selling. But what is success? Could it be that you're authentically living yourself, your life, as you want? But then, of course, it's kind of, we live in a society that's quite capitalist, and then you need to sell books. So I suppose, how did that, taking on this role, kind of make you, I suppose, interrogate, again, as you were saying, about your role as an actor and this type of things that you want to be doing, and the success, what does success mean to you as well?
Well, I think that the challenge for any creative person, or for any person really, is to find one's authentic voice, to uncover all of the stuff that's laid on top of the individual by society or by trauma or whatever it may be, and find that essential voice that represents as fully as possible who you are. I think that's what Monk wants to do. That's how he expresses himself as a writer. In the book, Erasure by Percival Everett, which Core Jefferson, our writer-director, adapted for our film, there are these wonderful moments of kind of meditation where Monk's mind floats off and he's describing just these peculiar interests. Peculiar perhaps for someone who looks at him and thinks he might not have a tendency toward these things. So he muses about fly fishing and the details of fly fishing, and how he just adores the process. The detective work, trying to outsmart these fish. Or he speaks on woodworking and the smell of it's just there's just these beautiful moments of kind of quiet reflection and solitude for him that were really informing of me. So, as you know, in some ways, as I worked on this, or helpful anyway, because Cord's adaptation is very much his own. He changes things and recreates them in his own image for the purposes of our film. But that's what Monk is. He's a guy who has his own set of interests. They may be esoteric, they may, be unexpected, but they're his, and he wants to write about those things. He writes a book of, the Persians, which is a kind of consideration of, the Black experience through Greek mythology. People are like, we don't read that shit, man, But that's his voice.
Yeah.
And so that's, in some ways, an answer to your question, what success is finding that, and to the extent that one can, being true to it, because that's what will carry you through. I mean, the kind of falseness of playing to others' expectations, I suppose it could lead to a certain type of success, but I think it would be an unfulfilling one. Monk goes on a journey, I won't give too much away about the film, I believe, of reconciling himself with who he is, but also with what the world outside is, and not being so kind of pugilistic and in a sense trying to change the world, but rather reconciling with the fact that the world is what it is, and the best we can do is love who we are.
Yeah.
And that is, for me, the essence of this story. I think the social commentary is really well drawn. Cord, has a fluency in race, language,
very
and
blunt.
identity. It's great. The satire is wonderful. I so enjoyed that side of it. But the heart and soul of the movie is the story of this man and his relationship to love, particularly love of self, love of the other, but particularly love of family.
Yeah.
And that's where the response to the absurdity lies as well. Just this man doing what many of us have done and many of us will do, to become the adult in the room of his family.
And that's part of the success of being a successful human being.
Right.
I guess in a sense there's that layer to it, which I think is quite beautiful.
It's the simpler things.
Yeah, because I always think some of the things where I try and work out what does achievement mean, and obviously this outward success, but it's like, okay, am I living my life in a way that's happy? Am I putting kindness into the world? I think those are the things that I'm trying to kind of rejig my idea of what success is beyond kind of book sales or who's reading my pieces or things like that.
Happiness, I think, gets a bad rap. Happiness is super underrated.
Absolutely.
Happiness is, it may be fleeting, but it's kind of everything. I tend to watch a lot of documentaries.
Really?
I love documentary film. I'm kind of too literal in my thinking sometimes, but I'm also a bit of a news junkie.
What is it about documentaries that particularly that you like? Is it because there's less artifice and you're kind of getting, first person most of the time sources?
Yeah, I suppose the idea is that they're more objective. And they can attempt to be maybe more cerebral, in a way, and less glossy. So I grew up in Washington, D.C. It's a one-horse town. Hollywood is, Los Angeles is a one-horse town around entertainment. D.C. is a one-horse town, that horse being government. So that stuff's in my blood. My mom was a lawyer for the government, so I just love that stuff. I've tried to infuse it into my work as well.
You do political science.
I was a political science major in college, so and documentaries tend to be political in nature, or not necessarily, but I don't know. They just resonate with me. But film does as well. The other day, I talk about this movie all the time. People who actually listen to what I have to say gonna get sick of it, but I met Martin Sheen the other day. First time, I'd never met him. I'd done a film with Emilio is
Yeah,
Emilio
Estevez.
Estevez, his son. And we were doing this event, and he was, and I was like, oh my God, apocalypse now.
Oh my God.
Oh man. And he was telling me a bit about the experience of working on that, and yeah, I mean that film.
Which version do you watch? Because I watched the Redux
Yeah,
version.
he digs the Redux.
I love the Redux.
I'm an OG. I'm an OG. Just give me that. I can just marinate in that.
It's
all
so
day.
funny about that film because, you know, based on Joseph Conrad Darkness, but like, I love the kind of, so I mean, I love this film. I said if someone loves it, but I love the arrogance of Francis Ford Coppola kind of saying, this is Vietnam. It's like, no, this is copying and pasting the Congo to Vietnam. I think that's
John
really
Milius.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that it is a Vietnam film. I think it's a film, a mythic film.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's that journey is the journey of a mythic hero.
Yeah.
And so it's set in Vietnam, and it's an examination of the madness of Vietnam, but in lyrical, you know, surreal form. It ain't no documentary.
You really are a history guy.
You know.
We need more history. I mean, have you got a few in the works? Like,
Actually, yeah.
please tell me more.
A project?
Well, you can say, I mean, if there's a, you know, you talk about that, that'd be a really fascinating thing to do a film on, I think.
There's a guy brought me an idea. I'll talk about it. It's about a guy named Henry O. Flipper.
Okay.
Henry O. Flipper.
That's a great name.
Incredible. Henry O. Flipper was the first black graduate of West Point, the military academy for the Army in the United States. He wasn't the first to attend, but he was the first to get through, graduate. Then he's commissioned as an officer with the 10th Cavalry out in Texas somewhere, the Buffalo Soldiers. He's dishonorably discharged for misappropriating funds, but at the same time, he was apparently having an affair with the sister of one of his fellow officers who was white, Irish immigrant. And so they ran him out of town. He ends up in the second act of his life down in Mexico, where he basically becomes Indiana Jones. It's all like corroborated in the historical record.
So you're going to play him?
Well, we're trying to get it off its feet.
I think you look great in a fedora.
Not sure if he was, he was a ruffian, he might have had a fedora at times, but he without getting into too much detail, he uncovers these lost mines that the Jesuits had kind of hidden with these maps encrypted with all of this kind of scriptural stuff, and he deciphered. I mean, it's just incredible. And I knew a little bit about him as, being the first black graduate of West Point, but I didn't know about this. Second, I was like, what? And this, I went down these rabbit holes. I'm like, holy cow. Anyway, so that's a project that maybe, we're going to try to get off its feet.
I read this year The Man Who Heard Voices, or How M. Night Shyamalan Risked It All on a Fairy Tale. And it's the book about Lady in the Water.
Oh, wow.
Which I found to be one of the most fascinating books about the making of a film.
Oh, yeah. There was a guy following him around when we were working on that.
I mean, I suppose, So I assume you haven't read it?
I have not read it. No.
I highly recommend.
Yeah.
I'm actually one of those books where I love M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
One of the things I really love about him is that I think the fact that he invests his own, he remortgaged his house to make The Gift. I think the fact that he puts his own capital down to make these movies, I think that's quite, admirable. Putting the neck on the line, and also I just kind of love his way of making films. And actually, I loved Lady in the Water at the time, and I rewatched it afterwards. I was like, I still kind of love this film. I suppose
I love Unbreakable.
I mean,
I think that's the best superhero film ever
It is just next level.
It's so.
And was that why you wanted to do Lady in the Water? Because you were seen that.
And I was curious about him as a filmmaker. And Unbreakable, well, I mean, I just thought it was just so. It was so kind of documentary in a way, that they are among us. I just loved the way he went about that. And he's a wonderful guy. He's a wonderful guy.
Well, the reason I bring up the book, it's so detailed, and I think he's so candid, and the fact that he signed off on it, and it's very revealing, and it's not perfect. I suppose, is there any film that you've done that you think would make a very good book to be based on?
the last thing in the world that I would want to do is have some, excuse me, writer following me around on set while I'm working. There is no way
I thought
in
we
hell.
agreed that I'm going to be your official biographer for Flipper.
Oh man.
Can I come down?
You know, yeah, I kind of like, you know.
We'll table it.
Well, you know, it's for me anyway. Maybe I'm not that kind of. I just think there are too many questions for me while I'm working.
Yeah.
That I'd like to answer first before I invite anyone else to be witness to the chaos. You know, I went through a period where I've only recently grown out of, and that's probably, again, fleeting, where I thought I was going to get fired at some point in every gig that I had. I said, okay, I know it's going to happen today. It's okay, tomorrow's going to be the day. Because when I go into something, I don't really have a plan based on precedent necessarily.
Yeah.
I like to play in spaces that I've never played before and kind of recreate characters that I haven't seen before, I haven't experienced before, and so I'm always a little bit trepidatious. I'm always concerned, well, am I going to be able to pull it off this time? I don't know, you know, so I'm a little bit neurotic, I guess, as well, so I don't want anybody looking at me. I'm going through that shit.
I'm a very anxious individual. I totally relate. I guess my final thing I'd love to know, because again, back in the cinema, what are the best seats in the house? Where do you normally go to?
Oh, I try to be about 3/4 of the way up, you know, try to be center screen.
Yeah.
In center of the, you know, the
center of the universe.
The oral vortex. You want the sound. You want the You know.
I mean, that just makes great sense.
Of course, if you can, you know, if you can get them with some heavily buttered popcorn, and I'm good.
Nice, I love it. Well, I'll try and book some two seats at Curzon. Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jeffrey.
Cool. Thank you, Hannah. It's been cool.